welcome folks who've joined us. This is our first time doing this. These are dev hours. We're hoping to do these every week. The goal is to basically just chat, just hang out with people in our community, hang out with each other, talk about the game, talk about like what we've been working on, inspirations for things. Yeah, just kind of hang out. Like, we don't really have a big agenda. I've got a couple questions to throw at our team here.
I'm Donald. I'm a game designer here at 1TK. Before coming here, I worked on mostly some indie games on my own stuff and some studio experience. But now, for many months now, going all in on Turnbound and mostly designing stuff like characters, items, all the fun stuff that's in the game, really.
My name is Tom, also designer here at 1TK. Yeah, I'm kind of a veteran maybe by now, or an old lad, depending on how you look at it. I'm 17 years in the industry by now. As Donald, I'm all in on this beautiful game that we're working on right now.
Hopefully, if you're any of our community in here, you've seen me around Discord. I'm Claire. I'm a publishing producer, so I've been working with the 1TK team to do all the publishing support on Turnbound. So I'm kind of just a generalist. But yeah, so just got a couple of questions to start us off with, and if folks have any more questions, just like type them in the chat. The first question I had, at least like the one that I'm kind of curious about, in because when I started playing Turnbound, I played games like Backpack Battle, and I played a lot of Super Auto Pet, so I had a pretty decent idea of like what the turn-based genre was. But I think Turnbound was exciting for me because it kind of like brought in like a puzzle element. And while I've never played Hearthstone Battlegrounds or the Bazaar, I know those were two really big inspirations for this. So I'd love to hear from you guys, like how you took inspiration from each of those games and you brought them into Turnbound, and like what mechanics did you want to take and what did you not want to like take into Turnbound?
Obviously, like all mentioned games are clear references for what Turnbound is and for what 1TK has been working on for most of their time. And as you said before, like the spatial puzzle element of that is something that was like core to the vision of that game, like to actually take some bits and pieces from Hearthstone Battlegrounds, for example, also the Bazaar, especially when it comes down to kind of depth and mechanics, but then to combine that with this spatial puzzle element even more. So where obviously Backpack Battles is a big inspiration, was and is an inspiration for us. And so what we wanted to do as well, and this is part of this journey, is to like, this is a genre that is like maybe not the most famous one that people are talking a lot about, but it's a genre that people are spending a lot of time in, right? Like auto battlers in general, turn-based games, and since it's kind of a niche genre, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's also something that is like, if you look at some of the games, it's something that feels like pretty hardcore, or can feel quite hardcore, and we wanted to create something that has the same depth or like an equal depth, but is like a little bit more accessible. This starts with like the look and feel of the game, but then also like the general feel when you're actually in the game. I think like RNG is something that has been discussed quite a bit in the community, and it's something that is like an always on topic, not only for the community but also for us as developers. So when I started here, like RNG was the big topic here, and I believe like that the beauty of RNG is that it makes things accessible to a certain degree, and this is why we, in some places, we are even like we're doubling down on RNG rather than like tuning it down.
Yeah, definitely kind of on the vision and what we're trying to go towards. 100% agree. I think some other interesting things, maybe, at least for me, why this project was very interesting, because I really enjoyed the fact in Backpack Battles, for example, that there's no stress when you're sort of in the shop phase. Like you can kind of keep tinkering, which something that we also try to push, that's allowed, obviously, and that there's it's hard to find like the perfect setup. I think that's what keeps games very interesting, where even after you set up your boards, you go into battle and then something happens, you think, oh, maybe I could have done that a little bit differently. which is something that I really like about the game so far, and we want to keep in there. And the best moments for me are those where you like realize that every HP counts, right? Like you could have won or lost a battle on a one damage spillover or not. And one other thing that I do think we're also trying to be a little bit different from more games in kind of this genre is that we really focus on trying to have a battle that's exciting to watch. So that's also a bit where the RNG comes in. But for us, also for me, like kind of like games where you can also, it's also fun as a spectator. A good example of that is maybe like Worms, classic Worms game, where in your turn you're doing a lot of stuff, and then it's like, okay, now sit back and watch for 30 seconds what someone else is doing. And that feeling is kind of the same here, where you see the boards, you know that maybe it's stronger than yours, but there's still things that can happen, and it can still fall your way in like kind of funny moments as well. Those are also very fun for us to watch on stream. Someone, you know, shouting, jumping out of their chair in celebration of something, or even like the face palms are like kind of interesting moments that I think this game can create. Maybe I went a bit off topic there. But,
No, it's good.
yeah.
I think it's kind of like why I find it interesting to like watch other people play as well, because I'm not really big on like watching other people play games, but I do in like unless it's like a game that I know quite well and I'm like, oh, why did you make that choice? But and I think that's maybe what like Turnbound, why I find it interesting to watch other people play it is I'm like, I wouldn't have made that choice, I wouldn't have done that. And even from like the community, and I think Court's in the chat, one of the things that I learned from them was that like sometimes they just skip like the first shop phase if they don't get anything good, and I'm like, I never thought about doing that. I never ever thought about doing that. I was always like, oh, I'll just re-roll until I get what I want or get something good. So I think it's really interesting learning how other people play and learning how other people like strategize. So was there anything like that came out for you guys? You're like, I never thought about this, and people have taken this like mechanic or this thing and they've done something completely that we didn't plan for or think about.
I think we have some players that are surprising us quite often when it comes down to how many items of the same type they're actually bringing to the table.
Yeah.
So this is something that is also very tricky, I need to admit, for us sometimes. So it's like, okay, how much room can we give you guys to play around with the limitations that we're trying to set? And again, we have at least one in the team who's always like, let's go freedom. And that's, I think it's great that we have done so far, but it's also like sometimes getting to a point where it's like, okay, like 10 pearl crackers, is that okay? So, and I think like this is one of the funny things to see, like how extreme some of this stuff is being used, and then how it's actually used. Then, and this is why for us the duels feature is like such a treasure chest to actually like be able to like see this in detail, and then also like bring this to the rest of the community, because I think this is the really cool stuff. If we look at the featured builds, or if we see builds being shared online, like some of this stuff is like way better promotion for what this game could be and could allow for than anything that we can say in a chat like that or in a trailer or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe a funny thing about the duels feature as well is that it's really helping us quickly test things as well. It's like a little insight, but we can make a change to an item or a trinket, and then we can go quickly into all the duels build and see how it plays out and if there's any bugs or things like that. I did think also of an example of something we kind of didn't fully expect. We have like this mechanic where you can give minus power to attack tiles. And of course, we forgot that like one little check in the code that now someone is doing 0 damage, which can in theory have big implications if you think about it. Like now this person is not hitting you for anything. What if 2 people are hitting each other for nothing? This is also when we had to build in some more safety features of maximum turns and things like that.
What if they went to like -1 damage? Would that just give the other player health?
Yeah, that also that happens. That didn't happen in the live version. Like that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This was before it went live.
I have a question. What do you think has been the most broken item so far?
Is an interesting thing also about in a way game development. We are also fans of our own game, and sometimes you want to change something that people are like a big fan of within the team, for example. So that's why sometimes you're also you want to get a change across, but everyone maybe by like, no, but it's so much fun, please keep it in. But two examples are definitely the Deathloop cannon before the one of the later patches. Mostly because it was an easier way to create an almost certain win. There are still certain win like builds that give you 100% win almost in the game, but they are quite a lot harder to build. And for now, I think we're mostly fine with those. And the pocket watch, the old version of the pocket watch, was also something that caused like a lot of headaches, like balancing it and keeping the fun of the item as well.
Yeah, which is also a good thing, right? Sometimes we, from the design team, we need to be kind of the boring guys in nerfing things. And I think Deathbloom is a great example, and Pocket Watch even more so. So that's one of my nemesis items in the game in a way. But like to be challenged quite heavily on those, to like, maybe nerf them, but make sure that they are still fun to play. This is something that is great for us in the team, that we do have that challenge before it goes out, so that we still can do something about like maybe making things less OP, but then still make sure that they kind of keep the essence and that we can keep the fun in the game. Because I think the Pocket Watch, for example, as a pure designer, when I first encountered that item, I would have loved to remove it out of the box, and I would have been like, killed by the entire team. And this would have been a good move because it's a great item. It's exactly these pattern breaking item that is bringing fun to these games, but it's also a big challenge for us from the design team.
I suppose that's like another question is like, how do you decide? I mean, obviously when you see people playing and you see like, oh, people are just creating absolutely broken builds with this item, that's when you go and you nerf something. But like prior to getting that, how do you make your decisions around what stats to give an item, just as like a base level?
I mean, we obviously have we can reference an item versus all the items that we already have, and we're also running some formulas on what, for example, the price would be, and then we kind of still make an assessment if that feels worth it or not. But we're as a baseline, we are mostly looking at kind of what is it giving, and that compare that to all the other items we already have that are giving kind of similar things. I think that's the first approach.
Yeah, that's one approach to also like make sure that they're not completely out of sync with the rest of the game. But then of course the other measurement, and that's the more fun way of the content design, is like, what do we want to add? What can we add in terms of value to the entire experience? Do we have a cool new idea that might have been inspired by some of the stuff that we saw either in other games or even in some of our builds? So this is then the other part, and this is then the big challenge, is to kind of get that balance, try to add something new and fresh and interesting. And maybe just one word on like broken builds. I think this is an interesting one in general, because like obviously we are kind of the police to make sure that there are not too much broken builds out there, but at the same time, like, perfect balance doesn't mean that you don't have broken builds or items in there, but instead it's something that you want to make sure that there is an option to like go into the OP area. And I think like for us, it's less about removing the OP-ness of something, but like to make something more effort to go there. So if you want to go into a moment where you are very, very strong and maybe you're unbeatable at a certain point and in a certain context, that's absolutely great, right? If you have doing some effort and if you've been jumping through some rings before, then that's great. And so like we don't want to fix every broken item.
And also, interestingly enough, to add, like, it is asynchronous multiplayer. So we also have tools to kind of allow broken builds to be more or less prominent in matchmaking. So that way we can like reward players for doing something very cool and destroying everyone, sharing the build in duels. But maybe if it's completely broken and no one can beat it, we have tools to tweak it. So let's say that not everybody's facing this several times in a round, right? Like, because then it won't be fun anymore.
I think we've in previous like devlogs or dev chats, we've discussed like how we chose the different heroes and characters from lore and history and mythology. I'm kind of curious, did you guys ever had to cut a significant amount of items or ideas? Was there ever an item that you wish you didn't have to cut, or an item that you wish that you could have added?
There's a massive wish list, and I think like we can all be looking forward for what is up to come. I think there's some really cool things in the making, and also some of that just on paper, and some of them are still too scary when it comes to our devs. But we are getting there. But I think if I would need to think about stuff that we've actually cut it out, I think we did not. I think we have been not cutting out anything. Even those things where I would have loved to do that maybe at some point. I think we saved all of them. No?
Yeah, I think most of them.
I think we didn't, right?
No, some items were completely changed in the way they work, and some things have been just balanced, I guess.
Yeah.
In the old versions of the game, the T service would always give taunt and shield, for example.
Oh yeah,
it's one of those things like when the game was smaller, it might have still been okay, but yeah, this was just a disaster to balance.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to like talk more about how did you kind of group in like how you wanted a character to feel, and how did you design? I know it's like a massive question, so feel free to like just answer part of it, but like how did you kind of identify that, you know, you want Alice to be all about consumables, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so Robin Hood was a character that got added last, so it's in a way easiest because we already have two characters with the sort of a set archetype, and then the next one kind of has forced to feel different. We have a lot of gameplay already in the game, so we can kind of pick, we can see exactly like which character has what, and then tweak how we want to make this new one feel different. And for Robin Hood, I mean, there's lots of ideas on which direction to turn him, but we mostly, at least what I really wanted, was him to give like an extra trigger that other characters don't have, which turned out to be his coin donation. Mostly because I thought and hoped that it would create new things like I would add new things to the game, and we definitely like it when the character fits the lore as well. So it was a very nice fit. And the other kind of direction he was taken was he's kind of like someone that is more of a survivor in the woods, so to speak. Like he doesn't have all the tools to him, so he should feel like he's always a bit on the edge of running out of something, or like he's not in a luxurious position where he's just building up, and that's where his kind of sacrifice gameplay comes from. So he's usually part of his passive is that you want some items to be destroyed, especially early on.
Since we are using characters that are well known and that have a legacy with like most people, we want to make sure that we are like as close thematically as possible. And then these are the two levers that we're like trying as a kind of as a framework to then create content. And then maybe the third element of that is like, what kind of new mechanics do we want to introduce? And like for Robinhood, for example, like he was the kind of the foundation for our ammo system that we have been introducing. So that's another layer where it's like, what do we want to bring in from a pure mechanical standpoint?
Yeah, maybe one funny thing to share, like this also, like when we kind of land on a character, this also comes with some extra research about the character. So for Robin Hood, that was mostly watching tons of Robin Hood movies, looking for like items, inspiration, and things like that. And a funny one, at least to me, is like in the Adventures of Robin Hood, many scenes they're having this big mutton chop in their hand, and they're kind of sharing it as like the nicest thing ever, and that's then where an item ID can come from. So that's why he has that item.
Cool. We got a question in chat regarding it's, still early access, but plans for future characters. We do have plans for our next character. We can't tell you about them. But I wonder if we can maybe give some hints as to, like Alice is about consumables, Robin is about collecting coins. Can we give any hints to the next character without giving them away?
The answer, no. No, that stays secret for now. Stay tuned. It will be pretty amazing. We're not sharing that by now. Sorry, Claire.
It's Iron Man.
Good try.
They know. And then we had another follow-up question to that, which was supporting the existing characters once like the content ball is rolling. And I know that when we was building Robin Hood, and we came up with a couple of both core items and new items for both Alice and Wukong that kind of counterplayed or interplayed in some way with Robin Hood too. So I'm assuming that we're planning on continuing to update and add more core items and character items.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like as we're introducing new mechanics and then characters, we're definitely also like update both the core set as well as the sets of our beloved characters. That's for sure.
We also got another question. Do we have a way to test tiles in an automated, simulated manner, or is all balancing and testing done manually through playtesting?
We're obviously like using automation to test our items on a technical level. So this is where automation happens. When it comes down to simulation, we're only partly using that. We're actually we are more reliant on playtests internally. So we're doing this. We have the privilege to also have like playtesters from the community that we're also using to generate feedback in certain areas. So it's like less automated than other games. So I've been worked on games that were like very reliant on simulations, and we are only using that as a supportive element.
And then also I just had another question, which is there a core system you wanted to explore more deeply but had to scale back because of budget or time constraints?
Pretty soon we are introducing a very cool new item. And this, for example, was something that was meant to be completely out of scope, and with like a little bit of poking and begging and trying to be very nice to our developers, we finally got there, and I'm very excited to see what you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, and for features, we do have like things lined up, maybe that we would have already wanted in the game, but because of time constraints, we're kind of pushing some stuff back. But we do have like several bigger things that we really want to get in. So it's more of a time constraint than anything else, but or a priority picking.
I suppose that's also like a question that maybe it'd be interesting to like share with the community as well, because I know how we do it, but we have a list of features and things that we want to add to the game, and then we get suggestions and wants and feature requests from the community. How do you guys go about prioritizing that? Because you're weighing up new features with what you want to make, what has been requested, and then also what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and like there's no single answer to answer this question. iteration, right? So it's a constant balance that we need to find. Obviously, like when there's something that is really broken, which every now and then happens, right? If we see something critical, obviously this will always be the top priority over anything else. But at the same time, we also need to make sure that we are kind of sticking to our plans, at least up to a certain degree, to actually get through our roadmap, because there's a lot of stuff that we have planned, and some of these pieces are also like building upon each other, so there's like a need of like getting things done in a certain order. But then the interesting part, and this is maybe where your question is coming from more, is like, now that we have like way more people playing the game, we get a lot of feedback, we get a lot of suggestions, and again, there's no one answer to that, but like, if there's something in the suggestions that is really standing out, or where we're like, man, this is absolutely true, and maybe this is even fitting with one of our backlog items, then there's the high chance that we are prioritizing that up and then tackle this earlier. And for us as a design team, it's always great to see if some of the feedback is actually fitting quite well to some of the stuff that we have been lining up. So you guys are helping then us to like push things upwards, because we can say like, look, the community really wants that, right? So it's not me that wants it, but like they want it, right? So that's also like a great way for us to get things in.
There's nothing more validating when you say, hey, we really should add this thing. I think this thing's very important. And then there's like a note in the community, you're like, see, everyone's upvoting this. I said so.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps us a lot, as Tom mentioned. It's also one thing that we are constantly keeping in mind is we have to make choices on, like, are we doing adding changes or improving the game for people that join just now, or are we, and how do we balance that with giving more experienced players extra things? So this is also something that's kind of a constant pull.
So we got about 30 minutes left. I'd still love it if we could play the game for a little bit. So I've got one more question. If folks from the community have anything they want to ask, now's the time. I think the main question I want to ask is regarding the matchmaking, because I know that that's gone through a couple of iterations, and it hasn't always been clear exactly how our matchmaking works. What do you think about the iterations that matchmaking has gone through and where it is now, and how do you see it improving in future?
I think like overall, right, matchmaking is always like a crucial thing in any game. So, and it will always be one of the most iterated elements on. I think like in our case, like we definitely had some issues, not so much with the matchmaking itself, but with the way that how we were actually deciding which builds are going into the matchmaking, and where we had some issues in the beginning. So I think like we are now in a better spot than before, and we keep on iterating on this. Again, like it will always be something that we're looking into. We want to make sure that it's like both something that you can understand, that it makes sense, and that is still like giving you kind of a challenge depending on where you're playing. Yeah, so I know that's a little bit blurry, but like it's a heavy iteration based system, and we're gonna continue to improve on that.
Yeah, maybe adding to that a little bit, like from the data, we're definitely seeing more of a trend of what we want to see in the chambers. Like, for example, win rates per chambers are going gradually down or up, depending how you see it. So the settings we change on those chamber settings are also seem to work very well. But of course, we also want to give like a bit more freedom, where you're not trapped only in the matchmaking system, which is also why we have the unranked right now, where you can kind of pick your own setting, right? We want to do kind of more with that in the future as well, give more freedom to the player to make an experience that they enjoy, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think all of the games that I've ever worked on that have had matchmaking, I feel like matchmaking goes through so many stages of iteration, and you'll never ever get it perfect, right? It's just like one of those systems that you keep tuning and tuning until it gets everyone is generally happy.
And again, like this is where it's also helping that we're now getting like way more players in than before, because like these systems also then, as they scale, as the player bases are scale, the better chances we have like to iterate on that and fine tune bits and pieces due to the data set that is growing. And I think Donald also mentioned something very important, which is also doubling down on the pillar that I've mentioned in the beginning, where it's like we want players to experiment. We want players to freely craft their experiences. And I think this is why Unranked was something like important to us, where it's like not only that you can test out builds without like affecting your ranking, but like also to make sure like, hey, maybe I really don't want to have a big challenge today and just test something out, so play an easy game in unranked, which could be really fun. Or you do the exact opposite, and so like maybe I'm still in chamber 3 or so, I really want to see how it is to play against the high tier, so you go into a difficult match in unranked, and then you can see that as well. So it's up to the player.
Last question before we jump into playing for the last few minutes or last 20 minutes or so of the session. Of the tiles currently in game, which one is everyone's favorite, or which ones are your favorites? Because I know I have a few that I'm like, as soon as I see this item, I take it.
If it's a personal thing,
personal. Your favorite, your personal.
Yeah. Favorite. Okay. Yeah. So I'm one of those players that just wants to try and make things work, although they might be more tricky. So I think Strange Egg and Battle Boy is probably my favorite, and maybe even the White Rabbit. Like there's some runs where this thing can really work out, and I always cheer when the rabbit saves me from certain death. So
Donald
is Team Rabbit.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's a difficult one. I think like currently like I'm really like trying to do whatever I can with Robin Hood, because I think like it's such a diverse character that you can use in so many different ways. And some of the things it's really hard to pull off. And I'm still currently trying to make the perfect dodge build. So yeah, not a single item that I'm hunting, but more like to get something like an engine running around dodge. So,
and maybe if it's more a question towards like the general audience, what we see that gets picked a lot, for example. We would love to share some fun stats on that soon as well, now that we have them. But we can, for example, see that in most chambers, people like to pick revive things very early, especially in the early chambers, because it's a very clear thing, very easy to understand. And some items are also not passed up on very often. For example, the monkey fur, we can quite easily see like, oh yeah, so nobody, if this is in the shop, most people will get this.
Looking forward to us being able to share that, because I know that one of the things that we have on our backlog list is to have in-game stats, and we wanted to have in-game stats since the beginning, but at the moment we have to, like, the way that we pull it from the builds and the back end, it's just impossible, or not impossible, but it's just a lot of work to put it into the game in a usable way that is interesting for users. So I'm excited to be able to share that with people, because I think there is some interesting things. As for my favorite item, I think right now it's Bramboline. I love watching it grow. I love that little guy. He's a good guy, He's just a little plant that wants to grow. Anyway, if there's no more questions, do we want to just play for the last 20 minutes of this? And I don't know who wants to play, Donald or Tom, and you can just tell us what you're doing. We can chat.